Picture this. You're at a coffee shop scrolling through your phone, you check your emails, you look at the weather forecast, you order a ride and pay for a coffee, all without a second thought. And you're probably a financial analyst too. Part of your job is to pull real-time data from multiple sources to create dynamic dashboards. Well, behind these scenes lies a silent hero, the API, or Application Programming Interface. Without APIs, none of this would have been possible. These behind-the-scenes wizards quietly connect everything together to make your life easier. But let's take a step back. APIs weren't always the tech superheroes they are today. Their story actually began in a humble way. Back in the day, APIs were more like awkward messages. They were slow, clunky, and limited to passing basic information between computers. A computer could ask, "How many units of milk bottles are in stock?" And the warehouse system would respond with a number like 35. So no real-time updates or advanced analytics. They were functional, sure, but far from the seamless connectors we rely on in our modern times. Today, APIs have evolved into something extraordinary. They are the invisible glue that holds the digital world together, and they power everything from the apps on your phone to the online platforms that keep businesses running. APIs have even created new business models, like API-first companies. So what exactly are APIs? How did they evolve, and what does this mean for managers trying to stay competitive in an API-driven world? Stay tuned, because today we're diving into all of that. I'm Hamid Nach, and welcome to a new episode of eKompass. So what exactly is an API? Well, API is short for Application Programming Interface. Think of it as a digital bridge that lets different software systems to talk to each other. And just as real bridges have rules for traffic and safety, APIs have guidelines to manage how apps share information. Here's how it works. When one system needs something like data or task done, it sends a request. Say, "Can I get the status of Sasha's latest order?" So the other system receives the request, processes it, and sends back a reply. Yes, it's out for delivery. So what makes APIs so powerful is that they hide all the complex technical details while still making the feature available for anyone to use. Just like we don't need to know how a bridge is built to cross it, developers don't need to understand the inner workings of every system they connect to. They just need to know how to use the API. For example, a payment app simply asks the banking API, "Process these $50 payments from Saul to Samar." So how APIs evolved over time? Well, the idea of APIs can be traced back to the early days of computing. In the 50s and 60s, programmers realized that they could save time by reusing code. So instead of rewriting the same function over and over, they just created libraries of pre-written code. These libraries were the first generation of APIs. For example, early Fortran or COBOL programs could call a function called random to generate random numbers instantly without all that complex math from scratch. In the 70s and 80s, operating systems started providing APIs. Early examples were Unix in the 70s, then MS-DOS and Windows and Mac OS in the 80s. These APIs created a standard way for software to talk to hardware. For example, when a word processor needed to print a document, it doesn't need to code for hundreds of different printers models out there. It just sends the document to the operating system printing API, which handles all the hardware details underneath. In the 90s, as the web gained widespread adoption, developers created web APIs to enable communication between different systems over the internet. Early web APIs used protocols like XML RPC and later SOAP, which, by the way, were both developed by Dave Weiner and his colleagues. These protocols made it possible for programs to send and receive data in a structured format. For example, an e-commerce site could use a SOAP API to check inventory levels stored in a warehouse management system. These early web APIs were powerful, but they were often complex and hard to use. But the real API revolution began in the early 2000s. Salesforce, which was a startup back then, was about to make a significant impact. At the time, Business software typically meant installing programs on your own computers. Salesforce had a different idea, delivering software over the internet through the browser. This concept, which we now call software as a service, needed a way for different systems to communicate over the internet. So in the year 2000, they launched their web-based SOAP API, which made it possible for other applications to interact with their platform. This marked a new era called the API economy, where APIs were not merely technical tools, but real business enablers. In 2005, the API world changed yet again, when Roy Fielding introduced REST. Unlike complex SOAP systems, REST APIs were simple and lightweight, and they were easy to implement and use. REST APIs use a simple format called JSON, which can be read by humans and easily parsed by machines. This simplicity turned REST into the standard for modern APIs, powering everything from social media to shopping apps and ride-sharing services. REST works this way. To get a list of users, for example, you simply send a GET request to an address like example.com/users, where /users is the address of the endpoint where the user data is stored. And the server replies with the data. And if you want to add a new user, all you have to do is just send a POST request with the user's details. And in the same way, updating information works with a PUT request, and removing data is done with a delete request. The 2010s marked another major shift in API development. While REST was the dominant standard, it had a key limitation. API often return far more data than needed. For example, a simple request for customer details might include unnecessary extra fields, which was obviously inefficient. And as applications grew more complex, this became a serious pain point. So GraphQL emerged as a solution by allowing developers to query exactly the data they needed. For example, instead of getting a full REST response for an e-commerce product, including the name, the description, price, inventory count, and related products, when you only needed the name and price, well, a GraphQL query would let you request just those two fields. So what makes modern APIs different from their predecessors? Well, modern APIs are designed to be developers friendly. They are well documented and more secure. Unlike early APIs, which were like complicated technical manuals, today APIs are intuitive and easy to use, almost like well-designed user interfaces. Today, APIs are everywhere, and they power pretty much everything we do online. Consider something as routine as booking a flight. Behind that simple Book Now button, dozens of APIs are working together. One checks if seats are available, another pulls up the latest prices, another processes your credit card, and yet another sends you confirmation email. All these different systems talk to each other through APIs in just seconds. Now, let's zoom out. What does all this mean for businesses? Well, one of the most transformative effects of modern APIs is how they have democratized access to advanced technologies. If you want to add an AI that processes language or recognizes images, companies like OpenAI and Claude offer APIs for that. And if, for example, you need to handle payments, PayPal API can do it. This ease of access can help small businesses compete with bigger companies by using the same powerful tools. And what's interesting is that some of today's most successful companies don't just use APIs. They build their entire business around them. This is called an API-first approach. Take Stripe, for example. They built their entire business on APIs that lets any website accept payments. What began as a technical solution has grown into a multi-billion-dollar company. But APIs do more than just power single companies. They create entire ecosystems. Think of Shopify. Instead of just being an online store builder, they opened their platform with APIs. Now thousands of developers build apps for payment, shipping, and marketing, turning Shopify into a whole business ecosystem, all built on APIs. Another great example of APIs in action is open banking, which lets banks securely share financial data using APIs with third-party apps like budgeting tools or other fintech services. But APIs aren't just technical bridges. They can also be a source of revenues. Take BBVA, for example. They've turned their APIs into a profit by letting third-party developers build apps. In return, BBVA charges fees or take a cut on the revenues. Speaking of revenues, there are a few ways companies can make money from APIs. They can charge per request, like OpenAI does with its ChatGPT API, and paid subscriptions with different tiers, like Stripe's payment API. Some share profits when others use their APIs, like Apple's in-app purchases. So how can businesses leverage APIs effectively? As a manager, the first step is understanding your needs. Are you looking to integrate internal systems, build new applications, or partner with other companies? Once you have a clear goal, you can choose the right API strategy. For internal integration, you might develop custom APIs that connect your databases and applications. For building new applications, you could use third-party APIs to access data and services from providers like AWS or other trusted platforms. And for partnerships, you can expose your own APIs to allow other companies to build on top of your platform. And remember that effective API implementation rests on three basics. First, keep them developer-friendly and provide clear documentation on how to use them. Second, build in a strong security. Authentication, authorization, and encryption are a must. Third, treat APIs as connectors, not just tools. They link partners, customers, and new ideas, and they foster collaboration. Of course, implementing APIs comes with its own set of challenges. Security is a major concern. APIs can be exposed to attacks if not properly secured. In some industries, like finance and healthcare, regulations can also step in. For example, open banking requires banks to share customer data through APIs, but also enforces strict security and privacy rules. Many companies now rely on hundreds or even thousands of APIs, which brings new challenges, as these APIs require careful management and monitoring. So, as we look to the future, APIs are set to play an even bigger role in our digital lives. One of the most exciting trends is the rise of agentic AI APIs, which are changing how AI systems work. Unlike regular APIs that just respond to requests, agentic AI APIs can take charge, make decisions, and learn from interaction. Imagine an AI assistant that doesn't just book your flight, but also adjusts your calendar, informs your team, and even recommend things to do at your destination, all powered by smart connected APIs. API marketplaces will be also on the rise. These marketplaces work like app stores, as developers buy, sell, and reuse APIs. Artificial intelligence will also upgrade APIs, as it will make them smarter. They will predict what users need, learn from data, and automate tough jobs. So, as we wrap up this journey through the story of APIs, it's clear they've grown far beyond simple technical tools. Today, they are the foundation of modern digital businesses. They are driving innovation and collaboration. And the next time you check the weather, pay for a coffee, or watch a dashboard update in real time, remember the silent hero working behind the scenes, quietly connecting our world one connection at a time. I'm Hamid Nach, and see you in the next episode of eKompass.